Hello everyone, Alien Volt here, and I am bringing you a video on Ghost Recon Phantoms, previously Ghost Recon Online in beta. Ghost Recon Phantoms is set in the future 20 years. It's a third-person tactical military shooter. The game is set up for squad play, so there's 2 squads on each side for a total of 16 people per match. This game is set up to be a tactical military shooter, and teamwork is absolutely essential to winning. Ghost Recon Phantoms is a competitive game. There is a ladder system involved for multiplayer. You'll be playing on 3 different game modes on 9 maps. The map locations are set up across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. The first map is Attica on the game mode Holdout, followed by Robotech on Conquest, then the Rig on Onslaught, Tomisk on Conquest, then Prussia War on Conquest, Subpen on Holdout, the only map to actually feature Holdout, Metro on Conquest, Rooftop on Onslaught, the Nukes on Conquest, and that is all 9 of your maps and game modes. Unlike other games that actually give you the choice of running different maps and different game modes, the game modes are actually set per map. You can play as 3 different classes. The first one is Assault, and you get devices such as Blitz, which is a shield that basically runs and knocks people down and does damage to them. ADS, or Active Denial System, which sends out microwaves, which actually distorts and prevents enemies from firing their weapons as well as doing damage and killing them. You get weapons such as assault rifles and shotguns. The next class is Recon, where you get devices like the Scan, that scans for enemies in the direction you're pointed. Cloak, which basically makes you invisible for a short period of time. And you use sniper rifles and submachine guns. The last class that you can play in this game is Support, and you get Blackout, which disrupts your enemies with MP Blast that not only depletes enemy devices but also briefly disorients them, and APS, Active Protection System, which is basically a shield deflecting bullets. Your weapons you'll be using will be light machine guns and shotguns. Your weapon and gear are fully customizable in this game, anywhere from silencers, suppressors, types of ammo, and then your body suits, as you can see by the display here, have different slots available according to what level you are. The slots that you have open are actually customizable by like health regen, crit, protection, damage, deflection, things of that nature. As well as health points. So you'll see people load those up any way they desire, and some people will have a large amount of health while others have smaller amounts. It's because of the mods and the type of gear that they're currently wearing. And you can try anything out on the range prior to buying it in the store. I mentioned earlier 3 game modes that the game actually has when I was talking about the maps. There's Conquest, which is basically the same thing as Conquest or Domination in any other game mode. There's 5 points that basically, to win the match, you have to maintain control of the majority of the points or dominate them all. Then there's Onslaught, where there's 3 points on the map, and you take turns assaulting and defending, which is what I'm currently playing right now in this game mode. You have to maintain control of A and B. Once you achieve that, then C becomes available for you to then take. This guy thought he had me and he didn't. So to win an Onslaught, you either take all 3 bases, or if you're the defending team, you prevent the enemy team from taking the 3 bases. The last game mode is Holdout. It's only available on Subpen map, and basically there's only 1 point on the map, and you control the point for the longest amount of time during the round to win. There are 3 rounds basically per match. Win 2 out of 3 of the rounds to dominate the match. Unlike other military shooters in this class, such as Call of Duty Ghost or Battlefield 4 or even Arma 3, Ghost Recon Phantoms is a smaller base game and it is free to play. So there are 2 types of currencies that run this game. One is your requisition points that you basically earn by playing the game and winning rounds. And the other is ghost coins, which you can actually purchase with real money. Which is why when you're playing this game, some people will say it's a pay to win, which isn't entirely true, but it does give you a very big head start in the earlier levels because your gear will be better than the average person starting off the game. But it won't be anything drastic, but you will have a lot more hit points. And your weapons could end up doing more damage, have a little bit more control, depending on what you actually purchase. For instance, if you look at my health in this video, I have 108 hit points right now. And there are some people that I'm playing against that will have over 160. Well, when they're dealing with another 50% more hit points than you are, you do have to do quite a bit more damage to actually kill them and beat them in a firefight. I personally think the ghost coins are a little steep in price. Other people may disagree with me, but if you try to max out all 3 classes of your characters when you're starting off in this game, you're going to end up spending somewhere around $150, which I think is a little pricey. I mean, if you buy a new game, you're spending somewhere between $50 to $70, maybe even $40 to $70. You're not normally going to spend $150 for a game right off the bat. It is a free-to-play game though, so you don't have to buy the coins. You can actually earn the points or the currency in-game and buy most items that you need. You're just not going to be able to get some of the cosmetic things in the game that you might like, different uniform colors or different helmet appearances. Different styled weapons may not be available to you for purchase. But that's part of playing a free-to-play. That's what the coins are actually designed for. Not really starting off and with your character, you know, at a really high level compared to everyone else. Now, of course, if you want to buy ghost coins to either bump up some things like I have, like I bumped up my weapons, but I didn't really bump up my armor and stuff, you can buy smaller amounts. The coins start off at $5 for 800. $10 gets you 1,700. 15, which seems like one of the better deals, gets you 2,700. $30 gets you 5,600. $50 gets you 10,100. And $100 gets you 23,000 coins. And realistically, with 23,000 coins, you could probably get all 3 of your characters pretty good gear. Now, from what I've seen so far with playing with people online, it's probably about 30% of the people seem to have really good gear, and about 70% are just playing with the basic stuff that you get as free to play or very little upgrades. So you're not going to be at a huge disadvantage if you decide not to buy the ghost coins, but there will be some people that just do really well because they have, you know, maxed out their gear for the level that they're currently setting at, and most likely won't need many upgrades until they max out their character at level 30. Now, when you buy these different weapons in the actual game market with these coins, either whether it's the ghost coins or the coins that you actually earn in game, these weapon skins that come on the weapon aren't really interchangeable. So like if you buy a skin, you can't apply it to all of your weapons across the board. It only comes on the specific weapon that you actually end up buying. It's another thing I don't really like as much, because it's going to end up making you spend more money if you want all of your weapons to have certain skins. Now when you look at a game like Call of Duty Ghost, even though it's a game that you have to purchase to play, they do have weapon skins and packages that you can actually purchase with real money off of Steam. Well, when you do that, those skins are basically available to any weapon that you want to put them on, not just the weapon you actually purchase. And I think that's a better way to go. I would hope in the future that Ubisoft decides to go that route, maybe sell some skins rather than just weapons alone. That'd be something nice to do. Even if you buy a package of skins, you know, like say 5 or 10 that you can then apply to weapons and they're permanently applied once you actually add them, that would still be better than just having to buy a new weapon every time, you know, you want to change the skin on it. But we'll see how their business model works out for them. The game's been beta tested for at least a year now. I know I've been playing it for the last year, and I've had a lot of fun with it, but I've only played it occasionally here and there. I think I ended up buying $5 worth of Ghost coins when I initially started playing, and then I ended up spending 15 later on. It's definitely improved over the last year. The game is developed by Ubisoft on the Attica engine, the same engine that they produced the Tom Clancy Ghost Recon Future Soldier on. This is basically kind of like a multiplayer online version of that. Or rather a cooperative, team-based, tactical, multiplayer version of that. As I mentioned earlier, this is set 20 years from now. The storyline is basically the battlefield supremacy is dictated by technology, where those who can afford an army of augmented soldiers prevail. In a world driven by economic interests, the Attica Corp has begun selling its weapons and technology to rogue factions. Ghost Recon fights to protect order and peace, but now faces its former brothers, the Phantoms, who wage war against the system they no longer serve. Which sounds pretty interesting. The gameplay is actually really good. The mechanics take a little bit to get used to. You have to utilize cover a lot in this game, and to do so you have to hit your space key or whatever you end up binding for it. Also, you can switch how you which direction you face once you are behind cover by hitting a button that you bind. For me it's Q, which allows you to switch from looking over your right shoulder or your left shoulder. While you can still back up and move forward, you don't have to actually turn a direction and be locked into actually turning your body around. This will actually allow you to move backwards while still facing another direction, so you can move back and forth along cover without actually switching directions unless you want to. So it gives you more of a tactical advantage there, but it does take a little bit to get used to. The aiming and recoil on this game is a little bit more realistic than a game like Call of Duty Ghost, so you will have to get used to that. It's not quite as quick and rapid. According to their website, Ghost Recon Phantoms is not your average shooter. To succeed in Ghost Recon Phantoms, you need skill and tactical thinking. Where running and gunning will get you killed, Ghost Recon Phantom's unique cover system allows you to take advantage of the terrain to achieve victory. And I'd have to say that's pretty spot on. This is not a running and gunning game. If you run around just by yourself without any backup, you will die pretty quickly. You won't be very effective. Occasionally I take off away from my squad mates. Sometimes I get lucky and I come up behind and flank someone and do pretty decently. But like this guy comes out here alone and he's just running around. He's not really effectively using cover, and he gets killed by, you know, 3 of my teammates, or my squad mates rather, are right here in this one area on this corner. You really have to utilize cover effectively here. And I tried to shoot him there without aiming from the hip with that pistol and didn't do too well. He ended up getting me now because he knew I was there. It's definitely a game that requires some practice and some skill to use. It's not something that you just step into from, you know, the more faster paced first person shooters like Battlefield and Call of Duty and do really well at. It takes a little bit of adjustment. But I think once you adjust to the tactical play style, I think you'll do pretty well. And I think you'll probably like it.
Losing Charlie.
I played all the original Ghost Recons, as well as the Rainbow Six games, at the time with a team called Team Soto. They developed a Soto Plaster mod, which was widely used in the communities. But it's been a while since I played a tactical shooter like this with a small squad setup, and it's definitely taken a little bit of adjustment for me to get used to. I'm really used to, you know, first-person shooters like Battlefield 4 and Call of Duty, where both of those games can be played with teamwork, but seldom have the teamwork that this game requires to win. I mean, if either of those games were played with the teamwork and coordination this game requires, you'd dominate every match you ever played. This game forces you to play as a team and work together to win, which is a pretty nice change of pace, especially from, you know, first-person shooters that I predominantly play. However, I will say that playing online in a world, you know, environment sometimes can be tricky to work as a team because there's not as much communication going on as what needs to be. You get people that you know, just can't communicate because of language barriers. And although you're going to see that in any multiplayer online game you play nowadays, it doesn't affect you nearly as much as a game that requires you to work together as a team does. Because obviously with communication barriers, it's just, you know, you're not going to be able to be as effective if you can't communicate. Now, Ubisoft produced this for PC currently right now, but it is scheduled to be made for the Wii U as well. I know they put a hold on producing it because they wanted to focus on the PC version, but it should be coming out on Wii U. I don't know if it's something that's been, you know, kind of a Wii U exclusive title, keeping it away from the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I just know the only two platforms that was being produced for was PC and Wii U. Now I know other games like Battlefield 4 or Call of Duty Ghost were produced cross-platform, so they included all the consoles as well as PC. Obviously each platform has its own titles that are produced for just that and PC, and sometimes just that alone, and they exclude PC, which I kind of disagree with. I don't think any title should really be withheld from PC, being that most of your gaming PCs are about 3 times as expensive as any console is. A mid-level video card for PC gaming is going to cost you at least as much as a console. And then you got to look at the extreme gamers that spend like $10,000 to $12,000 on PCs. And definitely out of my price category, but you go to Falcon Northwest and try to max out one of their PCs and you'll see what I'm talking about. Their custom paint jobs on their PCs will sometimes cost more than what some people even pay for a gaming PC. I mean, I personally wish I had one of those PCs and I had 4 Titans ran in SLI, valued at like $4,000 for that setup alone, just for the video cards. But I think my wife would kill me. But that's the nature of the beast. You know, PC gaming is an expensive hobby. It's constantly evolving. The technology is constantly increasing and improving. You're not basically, you know, gaming on a console. It's basically kind of like almost a generic setup for several years, where everything's pretty much neutralized. I mean, PC gaming is constantly evolving and you have to keep up. Otherwise your performance will suffer in games. Which is exactly the reason why consoles are so popular. And that's where the money's at right now. I mean, you get a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, which basically performs equivalent to a lower end gaming PC. The graphics look really good on them. I mean, they get good performance. In 4 years, when they're dated, obviously they're not going to look anywhere near what PCs do, but they do well right now, and for the money, you can't beat them. Now, I hope they end up producing this game for Xbox One and PlayStation 4 as well. I'd like to see the game do well on all platforms. And if they want to maximize their profits, that's what they'll end up doing. But right now, it's just strictly PC is the only thing that's officially been released on. I don't know if they'll actually ever even pick up the Wii U version or not. I'd like to see them do that, but you know, only time will tell. One thing I should probably mention is a scan that I'm using right now, which is kind of like an oracle, you know, like in Call of Duty Ghost. It pinpoints your enemy location. It does decrease the longer you use it. You only have a certain amount of use. Once it maximizes, you can use it for a pretty long time. I try to divide my uses up depending on whether or not my full team is there and we're trying to take out the enemy. I might let it go the entire span of its activation, but normally I try to do it in phases so that I have it available to me more often than not. If you use it and just let it run completely out until it deactivates, you've got to wait a while before you actually build back up the resources to use it again. I guess technically it'd be letting it charge up, I guess, to be able to be redeployed. But that's why I originally picked the Recon class, is I really like the idea of having that, as well as an ability that I didn't show you in these video clippings because I stopped using it, which is a stealth ability. So you can basically stealth out and run past enemies and try to take a point behind them, which is a very useful tool if you're kind of playing solo. Not quite as effective or beneficial to the team as a kind of a support skill. So it's something that I went away from because people were requesting people to use like the Oracle scan, and I didn't have it equipped. I had the stealth, and so basically I ended up swapping them back out using the scan, and I just never switched back to stealth. But I may end up switching my classes. I mean, there's a lot of tools that the other classes have that I'm really starting to like, and now that I'm playing against them more often, as I'm leveling up and getting used to my characters, I'm starting to really like. For one, I really like LMGs and other games that I play, especially like Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 3. It's like the primary weapons that I use. So I definitely want to try that out in this game. The thing that I really don't care for too much is that I have to level all three characters up. And I guess that's, you know, similar to like other games like Call of Duty Ghosts, where you have like a prestige where you level a character up and then, you know, you level the next character up. In this game there's only 3 of those characters to level up, so I guess I should be thankful for that. And they only level up to level 30 right now, where the other games are like 50. But I'd much rather prefer it, you know, even leveling up to say like 100, 150, and your one character can basically switch the classes as needed. I would much rather have it that way, but that's not the system that they actually end up designing. This guy had a riot shield on his back right there. That could have been ugly had he actually pulled that out and hit me with it. Because not only does it knock you down and stun you, it does damage to you. When you get back up, I almost feel like you're disoriented a little bit. And then if they don't kill you by then, you've got a chance to kill them, but normally they'll end up getting you if they're good. Now the maps in this game are pretty linear. They're not really wide open environments that you can just run everywhere and sneak around and flank people quite as easily. There's pretty much well-defined paths. It's kind of like playing You know, if you're playing Battlefield 4 and playing Metro, you know, or the Locker, they're pretty set up, so you know where your choke points are, you know, all the avenues and approaches to a certain location. Once you learn the maps, you know, it's easy to maneuver around and kill people, which is important to note, because when you're comparing tactical shooters, when you get something like, say, Arma 3 out there, which is very tactful in its approach and gameplay and even movement,
Securing Charlie.
much more tactful than this is. But this is a tactical shooter, and you know, it is played tactfully. It's just on a small linear basis. You're not going to find the wide open world like you do in Arma. You know, you're not going to find the wide open maps that you even find in Battlefield 4 and some of Call of Duty Ghost maps. They're smaller and they're linear. But that's what they've done with the design. They've tried to create maps and gameplay that requires everyone to basically focus on the same points, so all of your combat and all of your action is done right there at those locations. You know, you can't sneak around an enemy and flank 2 points behind them if you're playing Conquest and take their points away from them and then, you know, come back behind them and take points. Points, once you take them, they're pretty much locked in. And you can't go back and steal them away from an enemy. You have to take the point that's in between that you're fighting over first, and then you can move back onto another point. Which is actually very smart in their design for the game, because it keeps all the combat focused, you know, where it needs to be. Now, when I first started playing this, I didn't really know how I felt about, you know, like the floor lighting up here when you're taking a base. You can see these, like, you know, computer scanned lines that tells you where you need to stand in order to be within the base. I felt it kind of like took away from the immersion effect of the game, and I didn't really like how I saw the lines of where my squad mates are, so I can see how far away I'm getting from them or where they're at. But I got to remind myself, this is a game that's set in the future. You're looking at technology we don't currently have right now, so this could be something very easily programmed into some type of you know, GPS equipment on your suit that allows you to tell, you know, where your teammates are. So being that it is futuristic, it's something I just have to keep in mind and pay attention to. I've gotten used to it, so it doesn't really bother me anymore. It is a little different. You know, when you play like a tactical game like Arma 3, they focus on more realism. And so the tactical gameplay on top of the realism makes it a very unique game when you're trying to play something very tactfully. And it makes it interesting. But this is something in its own class. You know, it's very unique in this sense. And it's fun. It's definitely a lot of fun. This is a game I can see myself playing for a while. Now, I do wish that they would polish the graphics in some areas. I feel like sometimes when I'm looking at, you know, like a vehicle or something that doesn't really look very well polished, it looks almost toy-like, and then you move on to the next vehicle beside of it, and it looks really good. And in that sense, I think the game could be polished a little bit more. I would also like to see a lot more customized, you know, graphical options in the menus. I set up most of mine, you know, through my NVIDIA control panel. For the game, I just created a profile, which definitely improved my visuals a lot. But, you know, it'd still be nice to have, like, you know, your field of view changer and stuff like that. It should be pretty standard with any multiplayer PC game that seem absent in this game. And that may be because it's a third-person game and they figure you don't need it. But I think it'd still be nice to open things up. It'd also be nice if they could color coordinate your helmet with your gear. And I think right now pretty much your tactical vest is what determines, I think, the color of your gear. with the exception of your helmet, which you can buy different helmets to go with your gear, so it doesn't really affect that. I wish that they would basically change color to whatever your chest piece is. That'd be kind of nice. Then everything would blend in a little bit better. But take a look at that. You know, these edges of these brick columns right here. Everything is very, very straight, like perfectly straight, where it doesn't really support the texture, you know, resolution that, you know, Call of Duty Ghost and Battlefield 4 offer in their game currently. So for a next generation game, well, it's here. I mean, you can call it that, I guess, because of what it's designed for. It just doesn't seem to be quite on par graphically with the other two games, but it doesn't look bad. I mean, it's still a nice game to look at and really fun to play. It handles very well once you get used to the controls. Now, like I said, the cover button, you know, and shooting from behind cover can sometimes be a little bit of a pain, because like you wanna go up over an object and it doesn't go up over it right, or you want to lean out and it tries to bring you up over it. A little tricky sometimes depending upon how you're sitting behind an object, but once you get used to it, it's not bad. Definitely very useful and very effective. I mean, some people are very good at it. I imagine they play quite a bit, and you definitely got to be easy on the trigger on these games. There are a lot of recoil on the weapons, and you know, it's not Call of Duty where the longer you hold down the trigger, the more stable the weapon gets. It's all over the place. So you definitely have to be more tactful in your positions in gunfire. As far as I know, friendly fire isn't on, so you know, although it's a tactical, you know, military futuristic shooter, there is no friendly fire, which I guess is a plus sometimes, because that can be a pain. Other times, you know, you like it there just for the tactical immersion of it. That's gonna wrap up this video. I hope you like what you saw so far. My gameplay really wasn't the greatest. I tried to show as many of the maps as I possibly could in this video without making it too long. I started out with like an hour and 45 minutes and I had to cut it down to 33. But it's a good game, it's fun, it's free to play, so try it out. You got nothing to lose. I hope you liked it. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And thanks for watching. See you next time.